I was sentenced to 35 years. He took my young child's life. The state did not give him the punishment he deserved, so I believed I had to take justice into my own hands. I took his life and his family's lives away from them.
The name of the prisoner speaking the video is Elena Martinez. But who was Elena Martinez before the murder incident occurred? Everyone who knew Elena considered her a very good person. She was always determined at work and equally loyal to her colleagues. So how did this perfect mother turn into a killer? Elena Martinez was born in Guadalajara, Mexico in 1987 and immigrated to America with her family when she was 8 years old. While her parents worked as seasonal farm workers, Elena and her two siblings were children of a family struggling to achieve big dreams. The siblings, who had grown up with difficulties since birth, found survival even more challenging because they were also living an immigrant life. Her father, Miguel Martinez, worked as a construction worker during the day and did night shifts at a cleaning company in the evenings. Despite working 16 hours a day, he could barely make ends meet for the family. Her mother, Carmen Martinez, worked at a textile factory and tried to earn extra income by cleaning wealthy families' homes on weekends. Despite her childhood spent in financial difficulties, Elena's family placed great importance on education and hard work values. Elena was an outstanding student during her school years. Her teachers describe her as determined and hardworking. As a child of an immigrant family, she constantly felt the need to prove herself. Elena, whose financial situation was poor, was forced to continue working during her university years while studying business at Arizona State University. She did almost every job in the service sector. She worked as a waitress in restaurants and took cleaning jobs in offices. These experiences gave her a strong work ethic, but also accumulated anger against life's injustices. After university, Elena started working as a damage assessment specialist at an insurance company in Phoenix, where she met a person. This person was David Martinez. David was a Puerto Rican engineer, working at the same company. After Elena and David realized they were compatible with each other, they decided to get married. The couple had similar backgrounds and shared values. In 2013, their son Diego Martinez was born. For Elena, this was the turning point of her life. The financial difficulties that had lasted for years were behind them, and they had finally reached a middle-class living standard. They had bought a small but comfortable house in a neighborhood considered safe in Phoenix, and had started researching the best educational opportunities for Diego. Elena's mothering style was completely a protective mother style. She would take Diego to school herself, participate in all his activities, and help him to the maximum degree in all his classes. Although her friends sometimes criticized Elena for being a helicopter parent, she firmly believed this was the best thing for her child. Diego was truly a bright child. Although he was only 7 years old, he loved reading passionately and found solving math problems as fun as a game. His teachers said he was in the gifted category, and Elena also dreamed that her son could prove himself as an engineer or doctor in the future. Hidden within this seemingly perfect, orderly life was Elena's most dangerous character trait: her hatred of injustice wherever it existed, and her refusal to remain silent against this injustice. The financial difficulties and discrimination experiences she had in childhood had made her strong, but at the same time had made her extremely sensitive to the evils done to defenseless people. Her colleagues said that she reflected these characteristics to her work as well. When she encountered unfair insurance practices as a damage assessment specialist, she would defend customers' rights to the end and sometimes even start fighting with insurance agents. Her colleagues describe her as principled but stubborn and sometimes overly reactive. When the global pandemic began in 2020, radical changes occurred in Elena's life. She started working from home and found opportunity to spend more time with Diego due to his remote education. This period led to further strengthening of the already strong bond between mother and son. By the beginning of 2021, everything in Elena's life seemed perfect on the surface. She had received an important promotion at work. Diego was constantly getting perfect grades at school, and the marriage was continuing happily. The future looked bright. However, Elena's mental state at that time was much more complex and tense than it appeared on the surface. Along with the increasing responsibilities at work, her obsession with protecting Diego had reached dangerous levels. what she witnessed during the pandemic period was also wearing her down a bit. When that terrible day came that would change Elena's life forever and turn her into a killer, no one expected her eyes to become so dark. Elena Martinez's childhood years were a period full of difficulties that every Spanish family experienced when immigrating to America during this period. Elena, who came to Arizona at the age of 8 in 1995, had to struggle with both adapting to a new country and severe financial difficulties. The first years were really difficult and decisive in shaping Elena's character. Her family was forced to live in a small 2-bedroom apartment in one of the cheapest neighborhoods in Phoenix. While the 2 siblings shared the same room, their parents slept in the guest room since there was no other room. The financial difficulties were so serious that Elena consumed free meals at school almost every day because the family didn't have money to buy any food separately. The English learning process was both fascinating and traumatic for Elena. Coming from an environment where only Spanish was spoken at home, she had serious difficulty even establishing basic communication with her friends during the first days at school. However, Elena's innate sharp intelligence and hunger for learning enabled her to overcome this obstacle at a surprising speed. Her father Miguel's influence was very significant in shaping Elena's personality. Miguel, despite returning home exhausted from construction work every evening, never neglected to help his children with their homework. "My daughter, education is the only way to change our lives," he would tell Elena at every opportunity. "You work hard, study hard. Then you can become anything you want." The work discipline she acquired at this early age became the fundamental cornerstone of Elena's character. When she was only 10 years old, Elena started teaching English to neighbor children after school and supported her parents by buying food for the house with the money she earned from this. This early experience of taking responsibility made her much more mature than her peers, while at the same time causing her to accumulate anger against life's injustices. Middle school years were both academically brilliant and socially painful for Elena. During this period, she experienced her first serious racial discrimination experiences at school, especially when math teacher Mr. Johnson said, "You should consider going to vocational school. University will be too difficult for people like you." Elena experienced great disappointment. However, this painful experience motivated her to study even harder. During this period, Elena's sensitivity and reactivity against injustice began to become apparent for the first time. She noticed discriminatory behaviors against Spanish-origin students at school with sharp observation and showed resistance against them. When she was 14, an important and characteristic event occurred in Elena's life. Elena's younger brother Carlos had been subjected to bullying by other students at school and had come home literally crying. Seeing this, Elena found the children who were bothering her brother one by one and faced each of them courageously. Elena's cold determination and threatening stance completely intimidated the bullies. This event showed the first signs of Elena's protective character and that she could resort to violence when necessary. High school years were a critical period for Elena, when she both experienced the peak of her academic success and underwent intense identity searching. She was constantly on the honor roll and took leadership positions in student council. At the same time, she entered an intense work schedule to cover living expenses. Elena, who spent a very large portion of her time at work, no longer had time for herself. While her peers went to parties and had fun, she was either working or studying. Elena never wavered from her goals. When she was 17, Elena experienced the first serious emotional relationship of her life. Alex Rodriguez was a popular student from the same school. However, Alex's family's economic situation was significantly better than the Martinez family, and this created the thought in Elena that, "I am not worthy of their family." In her senior year of high school, Elena made one of the most important decisions of her life. She would study business at Arizona State University. This field would both challenge her intellectually and offer good career opportunities in the future. University years became the period when transformation was most intensely experienced for Elena in the real sense. On campus, she took active roles in the Hispanic Students Association and participated in various social justice projects. In the third year of university, a critical event occurred in Elena's life that would shape her character. Despite Elena's intense effort in a group study, the project advisor gave her an unfair grade due to his prejudices. Elena, who did not remain silent about the situation, initiated an academic court and defended herself to the end. This event brought to light the most dangerous feature of Elena's character: never giving up against injustice, the determination to defend her rights to the end. This personality trait would play a very critical role in the great tragedy she would experience in the future. With 1 year left until university graduation, Elena met David Martinez. David was a student in the engineering faculty, ambitious, and someone with strong family values. A deep bond based on shared life values and mutual respect developed between the two. After graduation, Elena started her career as a damage assessment specialist at an insurance company in Phoenix. This professional experience increased Elena's empathy capacity, but also decreased her tolerance against injustice. Marriage and motherhood opened a new chapter in Elena's life. With Diego's birth, her protective instincts reached uncontrollable levels. The feelings of insecurity she experienced in her own childhood now turned into an obsession to protect her son. By 2021, Elena was living a seemingly perfect life: a successful career, a harmonious marriage, a bright child. However, in the depths of this perfect appearance lay intense fears fed by childhood traumas and uncontrollable anger against injustice. Elena's perspective that would change her entire life began on an innocent-looking ordinary Tuesday morning in March 2021. Cracks began to appear in her seemingly perfect life up to that day, and the order she was used to controlling would begin to fall apart. March 15, 2021, Tuesday morning. Elena went down to the garden to take Diego to school. The weather was sunny. Diego was singing cheerful songs, and everything seemed normal. Elena took Diego to the classroom door and left to go work. This was the last moment she would see Diego alive. After class ended, Diego was walking and chatting among themselves with his friend Tommy. At that moment, 46-year-old Michael Stevens, who was behind the wheel of a white pickup truck coming from the opposite direction, was driving at a higher speed than normal due to the effect of the alcohol he had consumed. Stevens's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit. Stevens noticed Diego and Tommy at the last moment, but the braking distance was insufficient. He couldn't avoid hitting Diego. Teachers who heard the violent crash sound rushed to help. Diego was lying motionless on the sidewalk due to the impact of the crash. Stevens hadn't come to himself due to the shock of the incident, but because he had a fear of being arrested, he immediately got in his car and quickly left the scene. Diego was immediately taken to Phoenix Children's Hospital by one of the other cars passing by, but despite all the doctor's interventions, he lost his life that same evening due to brain trauma. When Elena and David learned of their son's death in the hospital corridors, their worlds collapsed. Literally, life had stopped for them. Elena's first reaction was complete shock and denial. She constantly said, "This can't be real." This psychological defense mechanism lasted for 3 days. Even during funeral preparations, Elena claimed that Diego had only gotten sick. A week after the funeral, Elena began to accept the reality, but this acceptance brought with it a feeling of hatred. She started crying day and night, not eating or sleeping. During this period, it was as if every minute a plan was slowly taking shape in Elena's mind. Elena began conducting detailed research about Michael Stevens, who was Diego's killer. She learned that Stevens had a history of drunk driving before this incident, that he had a wife and 2 children. She determined that the Stevens family lived in a suburb in the north of Phoenix. In April, police congratulated Elena with the news that Stevens had been caught. However, due to his lawyer's effective defense, he was expected to receive a light sentence. When Elena heard this news, the light of hope inside her began to fade. In May, Stevens' trial began. Elena and David attended every hearing. Stevens' lawyer argued that this accident was unintentional. When Elena heard these words, she noticed her hands trembling. Her anger was increasing with each passing day. In June, Stevens' sentence was announced. Only 18 months in prison. When Elena heard this decision, she screamed in courtroom, "18 months! Is my child's life worth only 18 months? This moment was the point of no return breaking point in Elena's psychology. Elena had now firmly concluded that justice could not be achieved through legal means. She couldn't sleep at night. She would cry for hours looking at Diego's pictures. "My son, I won't leave your blood on the ground," she swore to herself. In July, Elena began going to their neighborhood to observe Stevens' family, who was her son's killer. She identified Stevens' house, workplace, and his children's school. During these observations, a concrete action plan began to take shape in Elena's mind. In August, Elena applied for a gun license. She bought a Smith & Wesson brand pistol from a gun store and started regular training at the shooting range. It was said that Elena learned quickly and showed natural talent. In September, Elena had completely figured out the Stevens family's daily routines. Michael Stevens left home at 7 every morning and returned at 6 in the evening. His wife, Linda, went to the accounting firm where she worked part-time after dropping the children off at school. In October, Elena's behavior became even more worrying. She almost completely stopped talking to David and rejected offers to return to work. She was only occupied with observing the Stevens family and developing her revenge plan. In November, Elena had completed her preparations for the day of action. She had determined that the Stevens family was together at home on Wednesday evenings. Elena had now passed the point of no return. On the evening of March 23rd, 2022, Elena made her final preparations. She checked her gun, had copied the key to the Stevens house, and reviewed her plan one last time. When David came home late that evening, he found Elena sitting silently. "Good night, darling. Tomorrow everything will be different," Elena said. March 24th, 2022, Wednesday evening. In the quiet suburbs of Phoenix, on Maple Street where the Stevens family lived. It was one of the normal days. No one thought that this ordinary passing day would be a massacre evening. Elena Martinez had completed her final preparations. On this night that she had planned to the point for months, there was no turning back. 11 months after Diego's death, Elena had decided to carry out justice with her own hands. Elena was in front of the Stevens house at 8:30. The house was quiet. Only the living room light was on. Elena used the house key she had secretly taken from Linda's bag a month ago and entered silently. The Stevens family didn't notice Elena entering the house due to the sound while watching television. Elena took out her pistol and entered the living room, moving with small steps. Michael Stevens was watching television in the armchair. Linda was washing dishes in the kitchen. The children, Brad and Emma, were doing homework upstairs. Elena first went in front of Michael. When Michael saw her, he asked in amazement, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Elena said calmly, "I am Diego Martinez's mother. You killed my son." At that moment, Michael understood who Elena was, and the accident scene passed before his eyes like a movie scene. He started saying, "Please, I'm sorry, it was an accident." Elena replied, "An accident? You drove drunk and ran away. Now it's your turn too." Elena fired the first shot at Michael. The bullet hit Michael's chest, and he died instantly. Linda, who heard the gunshot, came running from the kitchen and saw her husband on the ground. Elena also shot Linda. When Linda tried to get up from the ground, Elena fired the second shot and killed her too. Elena, who heard footsteps coming from upstairs, headed toward the stairs. When Brad came down the stairs, he saw Elena and shouted, "Mom! Dad, what happened?" Elena suddenly fired at Brad too. The child fell on the stairs and couldn't get up. Finally, she found Emma in her room. The little girl was trembling with fear and crying. Elena also killed Emma. The entire incident had lasted only 15 minutes. Elena had killed 4 people in the Stevens house and had taken Diego's revenge. A silence had literally formed in the house. Elena waited a bit, checked around, and left her gun on the table. She called the police with her phone, saying, "Phoenix Police Headquarters? I am Elena Martinez. I killed 4 people at 23 Maple Street. I'm waiting, come get me." Police arrived at the scene 10 minutes later. Siren sounds had spread everywhere. Elena was sitting in the house waiting. When the police checked the house, they encountered 4 bodies as Elena had said. Elena surrendered without any resistance. "I killed my son's killer and his family. I'm not sorry for what I did," she said calmly. Elena Martinez's legal process will become one of the most controversial cases in America's justice system, where a mother's love turned into revenge. Elena, who surrendered after coldly killing 4 members of the Stevens family, was detained at Maricopa County Jail, and her first statement was taken. Maricopa County Prosecutor's Office charged Elena Martinez with 4 separate first-degree murder charges after reviewing the case file. Chief Prosecutor Jennifer Clark emphasized that the incident was premeditated, stating, "This is not just a moment of anger, but a cold-blooded revenge murder planned for months." Experienced criminal lawyer Robert Kim, appointed as Elena's public defender, was aware of how difficult and complex this case was. In his first meeting, he suggested an insanity defense to Elena, but Elena rejected this. "I wasn't crazy. I was very angry, but I knew what I was doing," Elena said resolutely. Media interest was very intense. Local and national television channels covered the incident as the main news. While the hashtag #MothersJustice was trending on social media, debates occurred between Elena's supporters and critics in public opinion. While some mother groups found Elena's behavior understandable, victim rights advocates condemned the killing of innocent children. The preliminary hearing phase lasted 9 months. During this process, lawyer Kim had Elena's mental state analyzed and collected evidence that would document the impact of Diego's death on the family. However, Elena's months-long planning process was not working in favor of the case. Judge Margaret Williams was appointed as the experienced judge to conduct the case. Jury selection was a difficult process because strong opinions had formed in public opinion about the incident. Finally, 12 jurors were selected, 7 women and 5 men. The trial day had come. The trial began on January 10th, 2023. In the opening statement, the prosecution emphasized that Elena was a cold-blooded killer who killed innocent children. The defense argued that Elena was a mother who experienced deep trauma and that the justice system had victimized her. The prosecution's witnesses included crime scene investigation experts, forensic experts, and relatives of the Stevens family. The testimony showed that this incident was premeditated and that the victims were innocent. The defense's main strategy focused on Elena's mental state. Psychiatrist Dr. Sarah Miller explained that Elena was experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder and that Diego's death had caused her serious psychological harm. The most critical moment was Elena's own testimony. Lawyer Kim made the risky decision to have Elena come to witness stand. Elena said through tears, "My son was only 7 years old. That man killed him and ran away, and only got 18 months in prison. I also took his children." The prosecutor's cross-examination was harsh. Prosecutor Clark asked Elena, "Your child died too, so how do you defend that you are right in killing someone else's child?" Elena's answer was definitive. "I provided justice. That man killed my son, so I killed his children." The jury deliberation lasted 5 days. On February 10th, 2023, the decision was announced. Elena Martinez was found guilty of 4 separate second-degree murders. The jury, while accepting premeditation, saw Elena's extreme emotional distress as a mitigating factor. At the sentencing hearing, Judge Williams sentenced Elena to 35 years in prison. "Your pain was real, you experienced injustice, but murder can never be a solution," she said. Elena's reaction was calm. 35 years is a long time, but my son's honor was worth it." Elena Martinez, who began life at Arizona State Women's Prison, didn't yet know what kind of person she would become the prison she entered at 35 years old. For Elena, who received a 35-year prison sentence, these concrete walls and wire fences would not only be punishment, but also a place of change. The first days were difficult. Due to the high-profile case, Elena's story was known among the prison population. While some inmates saw her as a righteous mother, others considered her a child killer. Elena had to learn to cope with these complex social dynamics. Her cellmate Maria Santos was an experienced inmate who had been in for 10 years. Maria taught Elena the rules of prison life. Keep your head down, mind your own business, and find something to keep yourself busy. For the first 6 months, Elena struggled with severe depression. Prison psychologist Dr. Jennifer Hayes held weekly sessions with Elena. "You are mourning not only for your son, but also for the life you lost," she explained the situation. Elena was initially opposed to therapy. "I'm not sorry for what I did. Those people died because they took my son," she would say. However, over time, She began to understand the complexity of grief. During this period, her connection with her family was minimal. David felt conflicted about visiting due to shame and confusion. Eventually, he filed for divorce from Elena. This situation further isolated Elena. A year later, Elena made an important decision. She would participate in the education program. Learning that there were university courses in prison, Elena decided to get a bachelor's degree in psychology. Education coordinator Susan Walsh was impressed by Elena's motivation. In her second year, Elena began volunteering at the prison library. She organized reading and writing programs and helped other inmates in the prison as much as she could. This work was therapeutic. Helping others helped her process her own guilt and anger. In her third year, Elena encountered an important incident. White supremacist gang member Linda Walsh attacked Elena. "You're a monster who killed innocent children." Instead of getting into a fight, Elena kept her composure and replied, "What I did was wrong, but they weren't innocent either." After this incident, Elena's reputation in prison changed. She began to be seen not as a political figure, but as a thoughtful individual. She gained the respect of other inmates. In her fourth year, she completed her bachelor's degree. The graduation ceremony was held in the prison chapel. David came. This was a first step in rebuilding their relationship. "I'm proud of you, Elena," he said with tears. "Diego will be proud too." In her fifth year, she participated in the restorative justice program. This program organized mediation meetings between criminals and victim families. When no one expected it, Helen Stevens, the sister of Stevens' wife, indicated that she wanted to speak with Elena. The meeting was emotional. Helen said, "Why did you kill my innocent sister and children?" Elena was honest. "I couldn't control myself. The killing of your children was wrong." But Michael's actions had consequences too. This encounter broadened Elena's perspective. Victim families were also suffering, and cycles of pain were complex. From the sixth year onward, Elena began to take on a mentoring role. She guided young inmates and emphasized the importance of education. The prison administration began to see her as a model prisoner. In her seventh year, Elena started a master's program. She focused on criminology, studying the relationship between institutional injustice and crime. Her thesis topic, From Mother's Pain to Revenge, Individual Responses to Justice System Failures. In her eighth year, Elena openly expressed regret for the first time. In a letter she wrote to the prison newspaper, "Diego's killer needed to be punished, but my reaction caused more pain." This development was important. Elena had moved from black and white thinking to embracing complexity. Today, Elena is spending her ninth year in prison. She needs to complete 25 years to be eligible for parole. The years spent in prison have made her a different person. Still angry about injustice, but having found constructive channels. In 2026, Elena Martinez is 39 years old and spending her ninth year at Arizona State Women's Prison. The transformation she underwent during this time was of such magnitude that those who knew her before would be amazed. Elena's daily routine is structured and purposeful. She gets up at 6 in the morning and meditates. Breakfast at 7, then works in the library. In the afternoon, she deals with master's courses, and in the evening, she mentors young inmates. Her psychological evaluations are consistently positive. In Dr. Hayes' latest report, Ms. Martinez has shown extraordinary development and understanding. The probability of reoffending is almost zero. Her relationship with David has started to improve. David visits once a month, and their relationship is stronger than before. "You have become a person Diego will be proud of," he tells Elena. Her academic achievements are impressive. She completed her master's degree with honors, and her thesis was published in an academic journal. She continues her participation in the restorative justice program. So far, she has met with 3 victim family members. These encounters have been painful, but equally healing. Her parole hearing will be in 2047. The legal team is hopeful, but Elena is realistic. Whatever decision they make, I'm ready. Criminal justice reform organizations want to work with Elena. Southern Poverty Law Center, NAACP, and local Phoenix organizations want to collaborate with Elena. Media interest continues, but in a different tone. Recent articles focus on transformation and redemption. The prison administration sees Elena as a model prisoner. Director Michael Davis: if we had inmates who showed development like Elena, the system would be completely different. Her mental health has improved significantly. Prison saved me from being consumed by hatred. Thanks Elena. Public opinion is still divided. While some see her as a hero fighting against injustice, others define her as a cold-blooded killer. Elena is comfortable with this uncertainty. I am neither a hero nor a monster. Her outlook on the future is clear. Systemic change through legal means. I want to fix the system from the inside. Elena Martinez's story is not just about a mother's fall and redemption, but a reflection of American society's deep problems. Systemic injustice, institutional failure, and cycles of desperate actions intersected tragically in this case. Diego Martinez's death could have been prevented if drunk driver Michael Stevens had received a harsher sentence, if the justice system had provided real support to victim families. For people would still be alive and Elena would be free. But we cannot change the past. We can only learn its lessons and work for a better future. Is Elena's transformation in prison real? Time will tell all of this. The Stevens family lost their father, spouse, and children. Their pain is immeasurable and permanent. Elena's family also changed forever. Shame, guilt, and loss marked them. While America continues to struggle with justice problems, Elena Martinez's story reminds us of the consequences of individual actions and social failures. Justice is complex, revenge is destructive, and healing is possible but requires hard work. The question remains, can true justice be achieved when institutional failures lead to desperate actions? The answer is complex, but discussion is necessary for democratic health. Elena Martinez, now 39 years old, awaits her parole hearing and carries the weight of 4 taken lives and 1 forever changed life, her own.